And I have interacted with these Illuminati kingpins, as I said, at one point they were hoping that I would write a history of the Illuminati, and their leaders, the leadership of these power brokers, they're in regular contact with the ET or aliens, whatever you want to call them, which I would call them fallen angels. And they plan eventually to give this planet to them. So their agenda, which they're getting from the aliens or from these fallen angels, is a non-human agenda. And they have for a long time wanted to create an apocalyptic Armageddon scenario. That's why their front organization, the Watchtower Society, went to every house in the world warning about Armageddon, is they want to build that fear into people that Armageddon is coming. And of course, if you get into the lore or the religious beliefs of different peoples around the world, you'll see that there's a lot of Armageddon type scenarios in their beliefs, that at the end of the world it would all come to some apocalyptic end. So the human race has been programmed this way, and they're trying to take advantage of that, which is just one more reason to be aware of what their agenda is. And in fact, I might just say what Weishaupt openly said. He said the true purpose of the order, that's the order of the Illuminati. This is a direct quote here. The true purpose of the order was to rule the world. To achieve this, it was necessary for the order to destroy all religions, overthrow all governments, and abolish private property. And if you look at the World Economic Forum, that's what they're trying to do. Is the World Economic Forum, by the way, is a front for the Illuminati. Their leadership is Illuminati. They plan to abolish private property. As you probably know, Klaus Schwab has said, you're going to own nothing and be happy. Well, if you own nothing and are happy, that's a sign of mind control right there. You've been
because it's really funny that you mention this, because the early Christians, which we call the Gnostic Christians, speak about the archons.
Yeah.
And they mention very much the same as what you spoke about, to the letter, almost, to the letter. So it everything that you're saying makes perfect sense to me, really. Based on the history.
So what you're seeing real quickly over there in England, and I don't know if it's pervasive or not, but they have started telling people that they could have a universal basic income, 1,600 to 2,000 pounds per month, if they will take a chip in their right hand. And people have been lining up for chip. And that's just one of what I call 4 different things. They got the CBDCs, that central bank digital currencies that they're bringing in worldwide. And then the next component is the facial recognition and digital ID that they're bringing in. And they have millions of cameras all throughout the world. People don't realize that their cell phones are cameras that can do facial recognition. And then the third component would be their beast computers, which is a big subject that I've been exposing for a long time, for decades. And then that's married to the fourth component, which is these agendas, about global warming. We need to be sustainable. We've got these vaccines that we're supposed to take. And so you see these 17 sustainable development goals that all the nations of the United Nations agreed on. And you go back and look at these, and you actually, when you look closer at them, see that they're not human. They're not in favor of the human race. They're actually um, trying to take away from us because they have this idea or this theory that human emissions, for instance, drives climate change. And if I can slip in a word here, I'd like to say that there was a genius. His name was Milutin Milankovic, and Milankovic is spelled Milankovic. He was a Serbian, very brilliant genius, mathematician, engineer, scientist, climatologist. And as a climatologist, he came up with ways to explain the Earth's climate changes. He had this mathematical theory of climate that could reconstruct past climates and future ones, right? And so they're tampering with his formula. If you look at the research into ice ages, um, they show that carbon dioxide lags behind temperature changes. So, in other words, carbon dioxide levels are like the feedback. They're not the causing factor in climate change, but they're trying to tell us that this is what's driving climate change so that they can take away everything that we have, because we've got this carbon footprint that's dangerous. And going back to the 17 sustainable developmental goals that the UN nations all agreed upon, you're supposed to have responsible consumption. Well, responsible consumption from their vantage point is no carbon footprint. We're to have green and smart.
And of course, the irony of that is if we have no carbon, we have no life. Plants will not grow.
Well,
when I read that, I thought, oh my goodness, they've studied this well, to put it bluntly. Once again, I agree with everything that you were saying. The one thing that you mentioned was the beast computer, something I've not heard of. I don't know what this is. What is the beast computer, please, Fritz?
Well, I had a friend who accidentally bumped into, at the time, this was in the 70s, and there were only 3 beast computers in the world at that time. There was one in Australia, one in South Africa, and one in Alaska. And making an extremely long story short, he was out in the middle of nowhere and bumped into this. And the engineer that was in charge of getting it running, and he was about to turn it over to other people, he gave my friend Dale a guided tour. He said, once you're done seeing this, you'll not want to talk about it anyway. And he showed him how from that point they could control the world. Back then you could talk to the computer and she would talk back to you. The voice of the computer was a woman, by the way. So that's why I used the pronoun she. And everything, people weren't aware of it. Now they're more aware of it. That everything about us is being dragged into these computers, and then they're using AI to analyze us. They know us better than we know ourselves. And even back then in the 70s, they could pull strings, like the engineer was telling them, well, think of somebody that you don't think anybody knows about. And so he came up with somebody in his high school class that he thought was a pretty unknown person. And the computer knew all about him. And then the guy goes, well, we can make this guy kill his brother. And Dale was totally skeptical. Yeah, right. And then they asked the computer to come up with a program, a plan to get him to kill his brother. And when he saw what the computer had designed, he was like blown away. He realized that would work. So they're using AI, artificial intelligence, to run these computers and to control the world. And these are called beast computers. They've added more computers to the system since then. There were only 3 back then, but they've added quite a few more, and they're located around the world. I know where some of them are, but I don't know where all of them are, or I don't think I know where all of them are. One in Belgium. There's one on an island near Antarctica that the Norwegians, believe it or not, the Norwegians have an island near Antarctica that's like the furthest from any landmass of any island. So they've got them scattered around the world now, linked together, and pulling in everything about us. And people don't realize that your cell phone's listening to you and watching you, and everything about you is being dragged into these computers and analyzed, and it gives them kind of a godlike ability where they know everything and are omnipresent. And anyway, that's a little bit about these computers.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. But may I ask, what are you working on at the moment? Are you working on anything, or is there a new book coming? Or
I wish. I'm supporting my family, and that keeps me busy. I have a beautiful family, a wonderful family, and that is something that's directly in opposition to like the World Economic Forum and what's socially correct. We're supposed to hate children. We're supposed to not want to have children. So to have a beautiful family that's cute and intelligent is going directly against what these people want. Um, that's my little part in making the world a better place.
yeah, we're almost running out of time because you were talking about the Illuminati families and stuff like this, but like for what I understand is they also have, if you like, people that work for them or groups that work for them. And the one that seems to sort of raise my eyebrows is the Tavistock Institute. Do you know about the Tavistock Institute?
Yes, it's not one entity. There's several Tavistock groups, and one part of Tavistock. I mean, they have a good front, like so many of these things. You know, their front is that they're there for us. But the Tavistock Institute has been involved with this trauma-based mind control. There are some, like this one Brit who was in World War One. He was programmed with trauma-based mind control in the UK, clear back in the World War One time period. So, people think that this is just a recent phenomenon, but people like Tavistock have been working on mind control and understanding how people tick for a long time. And one thing that they ran was the Beatles. Beatles, a band in the 1960s, they came out with 100 hits, and they were extremely popular. And that whole thing was organized for social engineering. I don't know how old you are, but I remember the Beatles. And before they came along, there were certain things, society did certain things. And after they came in, they brought in rock and roll, they brought in long hair, they brought in rebellion. I mean, you look at the 50s and the 60s, they were totally different periods of time. the United States had totally changed from the 50s to the 60s. And so there was a lot of social.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, thing is I'm probably older than what you think. A lot older, probably. I was born in sort of just before the 60s, and I agree with everything that you're saying. That the world of the 40s and 50s was completely alien to that of the 60s. Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was socially engineered. Because such rapid development has to have enormous sponsorship and enormous planning. And yeah, what you're saying makes perfect sense. In a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I grew up. In the 50s.
Sorry, yeah. You grew up. Yeah, sorry.
In the 50s in the United States, but then in 1960, I moved overseas to Nepal between India and Tibet. When I came back to the United States in 1965, 66 time period, it was a totally different country. And that's why, I got to see the before and after, and where if I had maybe lived through it, maybe I wouldn't have seen the changes wouldn't have been so dramatic.
Well, I'm sure you would have been aware of it. It's the same way as we were aware with, if you like, from the 90s and the computer revolution. You'd have to be living under a rock to miss that, really. To put it bluntly. However, it's interesting that you say about going to India, because most years I spend 6 months in India meditating and developing, which is quite interesting. And whenever I come back to wherever I'm staying, it can be Ukraine, it can be anywhere in the world, I always sort of like notice the difference. But that's only after 6 months. I would imagine after your time scale, it must have been a real jar, to put it bluntly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that, which is really cool. But yeah, thank you very much for talking to me. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I think again for your books. Your books have been fairly amazing, and I've enjoyed reading them, which is good. What about you, Chris? Chris?
Yeah. So I'll mention.
Sorry. Carry on, Fritz.
Oh, just mentioning two of the more important ones were Bloodlines of the Illuminati, which is the Who, and the Illuminati Formula book. I call it the Formula book for short. Illuminati Formula used to create an undetectable total mind-controlled slave, which is the How. And, I encourage people to study those because it will change your whole view of how the world functions.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for your advice. Do you have anything else to say, Chris?
Yeah, no, that's it. I just wondered what you think of the vaccine, Fritz. So do you think that is to I mean, what do you think the reasoning behind that is?
Let me tell you this, Chris. I've had shows taken off the internet for saying just some very mild things in that direction. So I'm not going to answer your question.
You're right.
I'll approach it from a different angle. Every system of control, the healthcare system, the food system, educational system, religious system, judicial system, political system, financial system, mass media system, these are all weaponized against common man. It's called 5GW. It's fifth generational warfare. It's where everything that can be used against us is being used against us except a shooting war. 5GW is everything except, and I don't mean 5G wireless, I mean fifth generational warfare. Yeah, all these systems.
Why do they call it fifth generation?
Well, we're out of time, but
okay.
We're out of time, like I say,
I just why it's
by
called
way of
fifth. Why not
continuation-
second?
Pardon me?
Sorry, sorry. Why is it
So
called number 5? Why fifth?
Because there were
Hello?
4 previous generations of warfare. Your first generation was like what they did in the ancient world, where you have blocks of troops that would be in colorful uniforms like a Roman legion, and they would march up to another army and they would fight. That was first generation. I don't have time, but maybe somebody can, maybe some of the listeners can listen to some of my other programs that I've done recently, where I go in and break it down.
Okay,
How
sure.
they came up. It's an artificial term,
Mm-hmm.
that the term fifth generational warfare has been around since 2008,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a good way to describe what's being done against us. They've weaponized everything against
Mm. Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on, Fritz, and I hope you come on again, and I hope you enjoy your day out there in America.
us. Oh, thank you. I will.
Thank you.
I'm turning right around from here and getting into my car, and I'm going to go to a family reunion, a big family reunion, and have a great day.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
you
brilliant.
have a great day too.
And you, thank you very much. And thank
yeah,
you,
thank
my
you very much.
co-host, Brian
Thank you.
Barrett. Thank you very much. And thank you, the listener. And see you next week, I hope. God bless.